What if the stealthy motions of submarines lying beneath the ocean's surface influence the course of history? Consider how a single torpedo fired in secret may have triggered a global conflict that transformed the world. Submarines, those silent sentinels of the deep, possessed the ability to drive tensions to the verge of World War III. Their place in history is a terrifying reminder of how close humanity came to disaster. A 49-day manhunt involving 42,000 troops ensued. All but 2 infiltrators were killed or found dead. North Korea initially claimed the submarine drifted due to power failure, but later expressed regret, heightening tensions with South Korea. The submarine was salvaged and displayed at Tongil Park. The South Korean military faced criticism for failing to detect the submarine and for the civilian deaths during the manhunt. By the late 1990s, the economic gap between South Korea and North Korea was clear. South Korean President Kim Dae-jung introduced the Sunshine Policy, officially called the Comprehensive Engagement Policy. It aimed to improve communication and economic ties between the two countries despite North Korea's military aggression and human rights abuses. Many expected harsher policies against the North, but the Sunshine Policy sought a softer approach. However, North Korea continued its aggressive actions, making it hard for South Korea to stick to the policy. The Sunshine Policy started in 1998 and ended in 2008. Its first year was especially challenging due to provocations from North Korea. On June 22, 1998, a North Korean Yugo-class submarine got caught in a fishing net 11 miles off the coast of South Korea and 21 miles south of the border. The fishing crew noticed the submarine crew trying to free their sub and alerted the South Korean army. A corvette towed the submarine to a different port with its crew still inside, but the submarine sank during the process. It's unclear if the crew sank it deliberately or if it was due to damage. North Korea claimed the sub was lost in a training accident. 3 days later, the South Korean Navy raised the submarine and found 9 dead North Korean sailors inside. 5 appeared to have been executed, and the other 4 had committed suicide. The submarine carried military supplies, including rifles, machine guns, a rocket launcher, grenades, and diving equipment. There were also South Korean beverages on board, suggesting a recent espionage mission. Despite growing frustrations with North Korean spying, South Korea responded peacefully, returning the bodies without conflict. At the time, South Korea hoped the Sunshine Policy would improve relations with the North. Late one night in December 1998, South Korean soldiers spotted a low-riding vessel about 2 miles from the Yosu harbor. Traffic was halted and 2 Navy patrol boats were sent to search for the vessel. After an initial unsuccessful search, the vessel was seen again and identified as a North Korean Improved Submersible Infiltration Landing Craft, or ISC. The ISC, described as a 43-foot-long motorboat coated in anti-radar paint, could submerge most of its body underwater. At 5:35 a.m., a South Korean boat fired warning shots while chasing the ISC. The North Koreans fired back, and 13 minutes later, the South Koreans sank the ISC. The Navy recovered the body of a North Korean soldier about an hour later. A month after the skirmish, the sunken vessel was found at a depth of 500 feet. 2 days later, a body with a rifle and live ammunition was found inside the stern. In March 1999, the ISC was raised and 2 more bodies were found. Investigators concluded that the ISC likely had a 4-person crew, and all their remains had been recovered. North Korea denied any knowledge of the vessel, suggesting the South made up the incident to make them look bad. North Korea claimed South Korea violated the boundary by sending ships into its waters, although the ship stayed on the south side of the NLL. North Korea did not recognize this boundary. In June 1999, North Korean ships crossed the NLL multiple times. When they ignored South Korea's orders to retreat, the South Korean Navy used force to push the northern boats back. North Korea tried to push back but was outmaneuvered and retreated. 2 days later, another attempt by North Korea led to gunfire. The North fired first, and the South Koreans responded with about 4,600 shots, sinking at least 1 torpedo boat and damaging others. An estimated 17 to 30 North Koreans were killed. Several South Korean boats were damaged and 9 sailors were injured, but none dead. The dispute over the NLL continued with another battle in 2002, nearly 3 years after the first battle. A North Korean patrol boat crossed the NLL into South Korean waters and was ordered to turn back. It was followed by a second North Korean vessel, ignoring warnings. The two boats harassed two South Korean vessels about 3 miles south of the NLL. The North Korean boats opened fire, hitting the wheelhouse of the South Korean patrol boat, or PKM-357. A 10-minute skirmish ensued before South Korean reinforcement boats arrived. Realizing they were outnumbered and outgunned, the North Koreans retreated. PKM-357 sank while being towed back to port, but was later raised and is now a naval museum. In the battle, 13 North Koreans were killed and 25 wounded, while 6 South Koreans were killed and 18 injured. South Korea demanded an apology, but North Korea refused and blamed the South for the incident. In response, the South Korean military increased security measures and adopted a policy to shoot first. In November 2009, North Korean boats crossed the northern limit line, testing South Korea's patience. After 2 verbal warnings and a warning shot, the North Koreans fired on a South Korean ship. There was a brief exchange of gunfire before the ships separated. No South Koreans died, while North Korean deaths were estimated between 1 and 10. North Korea accused the South of provoking the incident and demanded an apology, which never happened. A year later, North Korea fired 170 artillery shells at the island. They aimed for a military garrison, but at least a dozen civilian homes were destroyed. This was the first attack on a civilian area since the Korean War armistice in 1953, 57 years earlier. The skirmish was again related to the disputed Yellow Sea border, called the Northern Limit Line, and North Korea's attempts to assert territorial claims. 2 South Korean civilians and 1 military member were killed, while the casualties in the north were unclear. The South Korean military faced criticism for being weak and unprepared, similar to past incidents. After the attack, the country's defense minister resigned. Most civilians moved away from the area, and the military increased its presence on the island. By 2006, South Korea's Sunshine Policy faced criticism as North Korea continued military provocations and developed nuclear weapons. In response, South Korea stopped aid but kept some policy aspects. In 2008, the president took a tougher stance. He refused to expand economic activities in North Korea and demanded the North address its nuclear ambitions for any economic benefits. This didn't happen, and by the end of the year, the Sunshine Policy was effectively dead. It was officially canceled in 2010. Submarines were more than just weapons of war. They might spark unprecedented global strife. What do you think of this situation? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe for more.